Artificial intelligence is the engine that is powering much of the technology that we are using today. And artificial intelligence has so many branches, its scope is quite huge. But one of the main useful branches of artificial intelligence that we have include natural language processing, deep learning, which is used for image processing. We have machine learning, which is used mainly for data science. And today I want us to focus mainly on machine learning for data science. So when you are training a machine learning algorithm, or you can call it a model, you require data for you to train it on what it's supposed to do. Now, this data could be available in a secondary repository such as Kaggle. However, in some situations, the data may not be readily available prepared in a secondary repository. It could be something like what we have here, which is data about the population of the world. And you find it in a website, and you really need to use this data for you to train your model. So the big question is, how do you go about moving this data from here into a format that is desirable for training a machine learning algorithm? That is what we are going to discuss in this video. But before we go on, if you are here for the first time, please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking this video. So now let us go on and see how we can be able to get this data from here where we want it to be. So the technique of getting this data from here, this particular website, to the format in which we desire it to be is called web scraping. And you're going to use Python programming language to obtain data that is in this table and put it in a CSV file. And once we put it in a CSV file, from there you can be able to load that data into your Python program. You can be able to pre-process the data, and you can be able to use it to train a machine learning algorithm. So the very first step that we need is to get this data and put it in a CSV file. So we go and open our favorite Python editor, depending on the one that you decide to use. Personally, I'm using Jupyter Notebook, which is available in the Anaconda distribution environment. Then we write this code. So I'll go line by line in this code and explain what each line of code is doing here so that you can understand exactly what you are doing. And if you're using another website apart from the one that I'm using, you can be able easily customize this code to fit your website. Now you start by importing the requisite libraries, and the requisite libraries that we need include the request. Then we need what we call Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup is mainly used for web scraping. Request is used for sending HTML request to that particular URL and receiving a response. CSV, remember we want to put our data in form of a comma delimited file, so we want to put it in a CSV. So we need to import the CSV library for it to enable us to create a CSV file. Then after you do that, you need to specify the URL from which you want, or the URL of the website that you want to scrap, or the place from where you want to obtain your data. So in this case, you can create a variable known as URL, but you can also call it any other name that you desire, X, Y, so long as you obey the rules of naming identifiers as defined in Python programming language. Then you put your URL there. After you do that, the next thing that you need to do is to send a request to that particular URL and check if that URL is able to communicate with your Python editor. So you create two variables, one known as response, another one known as content. So in the first variable known as response, you request or you send a request to the URL, and then you check if that URL will allow you to access the content that is contained in it. After that, you create an object of Beautiful Soap that you're going to use the HTML parser to scrap that particular content that is found in that particular URL that you have indicated here. After that, since in this URL, we are not interested in the that we have over here, we are mainly interested in this table. You come here and define that you're more specifically interested in the table. So we create a variable known as table, and then we tell Beautiful Soap. Now soap is an object of this library known as Beautiful Soap. So we tell this object known as soap to find for us this particular table that is available in that URL. Remember, you could be having more than one table, so you need to be very specific on which table that you want to access in that particular URL. Then after you are able to access that particular table, extract the column headers. When you talk about the column headers, we are talking about this first row of the table. For those who are familiar with databases, these are what we call the attributes, the first row of the table, which contains the column headings. So this line of code here will extract all those headers and put them under a single variable in form of an array known as headers. After you extract headers, you go ahead and extract rows. But you can see here, when we are extracting rows, rather than using just a simple variable like we did with headers, we are using an array, and this array is followed by a control structure. The reason as to why we are using an array and a control structure is because, unlike column headers, which you just have a one element for each particular situation, or like you can see for this particular column, we only have one element. When you talk about the rows, we have so many rows that exist in this particular table. You can see that they are quite a number because it contains all the countries that are available in the world. So you need to use a for loop, iterate through those particular rows so that they can extract all the information that you need. So as it iterates through those rows, it will considering the intersection between a row and a column, which is known as a cell. So it will be picking the value that is available in that particular cell and then putting it in the CSV file that we are going to create. Now, after you have done that, you create a CSV file known as population data.csv. And then once you create that CSV file, you write that particular CSV file. What are you writing? Whatever you are iterating here, remember you first obtained the column headers, then you're iterating the rows. And when you iterate the rows and you already have the column headers, it simply means that you are picking the values that are available in the cells of that particular table. So you write them, this particular CSV, and once you read or once you run this particular code, what is going to happen is that it is going to do that particular process within a very short period of time, and it is going to create the CSV file for you known as population data.csv, and it will save it where you have saved this particular program. Now, in my case, you can be able to see that my program is saved here. This is the file, scrap data from our website, and therefore our CSV file will be saved here once we run the code. So let's go ahead and run the code and you see what happens. So I have run the code. You can be able to see that the code has already run. So what now we need to do is to go back to where we have saved the code and see if our CSV file has been created. And as we expected, the CSV file is here. So the next step that we need to do is let us validate or let us confirm if this particular CSV file contains the correct data that we desire. So we open the CSV file, then we are going to check the various data that is put here. You can expand these particular columns for you to see properly what is in it. And we can just take a quick example. We can take the case of United States. And if we take the case of United States, we go to our website here, and our website here, which is known as World Meters, says that the population of United States as of 2020 was 331,002,651. Let us confirm if the CSV file is giving the same value. You can see that it is giving the same value. We can take another random figure, Mexico. Let's compare the value of Mexico that we have over here with what we have in this particular table. And we can see that they actually tally. So that simply means that you have been able now to take the data available in a website in form of a table, and you have put it in a CSV file. And once you have now the CSV file, you can be able to use Pandas library to manipulate this data in whatever way that you want to manipulate it. We are going to create a video on how to load this data to your Python editor and how to do data preprocessing, and even how you can create a full working machine learning model using this data. So do not let availability of data be a problem to you again. You don't have to rely on already prepared data. You can get your own data using web scraping. Remember, this is just for CSV files. You can also be able to do the same for text and so on. And we are going to create more videos on how you can be able to do that. Thank you so much.